What's up, people? I am back. Sorry I didn't do a Bruce Lee movie. It seemed like I looked at his list, and I think I did them all. I think there's one more, which I decided not to do because I didn't feel like it was worth reviewing. I might still do it, but I pretty much feel like we have reviewed all his big ones because a lot of the ones that were left are either ones where he wasn't in it or he was a small role. So feel like we did a lot of his big ones. That's why I didn't do it yesterday. But I figured since I didn't do that today or yesterday, I'd do this today. I didn't get to do Thunderball last week, so I figured do it right now before we get to you only live twice, which is the next one. So I figured do this one now. But Thunderball. This is one I didn't watch a lot. I remember the main scene where the villain burns a guy alive or kills him. But I thought the villain in this, Largo, is decent. Sean Connery always puts on a great performance. Pretty much the film, this one is about Bond has to stop Largo and Spectre because they steal atomic bombs from NATO and threaten to bomb them if they don't send in money. You kind of the things I like about these old Bond movies, the plots are so simple. They're not over the top. There's not a lot of here's this big subplot thing going on. They keep the plots relatively basic. Bond has to stop this, bad guy from doing whatever and stop Spectre. Bond does his thing. Really simple, straightforward. The Bond girl in this one is Domino, who works for Mr. Largo, but her arc, or her story really is that her brother is killed, and she doesn't know that it was Largo. Okay, that's his name. Largo was the one who did it. So, and Bond works with Felix Leiter and a couple other agents having to stop, and the film culminates with a bunch of MI6 taking on Largo's people underwater in scuba gear, which it looks a little hokey, but it's a fun scene. It's a fun movie in general. And then it has, my opinion, one of my favorite openings where Bond because it's a person undercover, right? For Spectre, but they're posing as this woman who lost her husband or whatever, and then she goes to Bond, and then Bond's I can starts don't bam fucking right hand. It's yeah, but Sean Connery, man, the way he played, he definitely does carry these movies. The plot could be not the greatest in the world, or I'll admit this isn't as good as, let's say, Goldfinger was, or even, Dr. No, but I enjoy it for what it was. Largo's a decent villain. And Domino was a decent Bond girl. So, it's an alright movie. It's not the best one, but it's alright. I'd give it, maybe 7 out of 10. This one, we'll see how You Only Live Twice goes, which I'll be reviewing later tonight. But I figured I wanted to get this done now instead of smashing 2 videos at once. So, but other than that, tomorrow I will be reviewing Southern Comfort, and then that's about it. So, let's get started on Thunderball, and yeah. But I did, and some of my favorite scenes are when he gets his tech. That's always been some of my favorite scenes in these movies is when Bond gets the different tech he gets to use in this one. So, I would say the movie opens. You gotta get this scene with Bond sitting, and then that is the scene I was telling you about, where it's a Spectre agent going undercover, and we get a fight between Bond and him. I'll admit, when I watched this at first, I thought it was a chick, and I'm Oh my god, Bond just punched a chick, but it's it was an undercover Spectre agent. Bond ends up killing him, and then Largo. This is where we meet our villain of the movie. And he plans to steal atomic bombs so he can use them to like basically blackmail NATO because he threatens to like bomb like either United States, basically the United States or Britain, like one of those kind of places. And Bond has to go to his island and try to stop him. So to facilitate the theft, he uses one of his agents to go undercover as a pilot, um, of the Air Force. He has his face surgically altered, and for the time, it looked good. Like it was 1965, so the guy, because the Air Force agent is hooking up with Fiona Volpe is her name. She's basically the evil girl of the movie that works for Largo. Palazzi ends up killing him and takes form of him, and they end up stealing the the nukes, and they threatened and Spectre basically before that, Largo ends up killing the pilot who took the bombs because he tried to renege on his deal earlier because he wanted more money. So Largo and Spectre blackmail NATO, basically saying, if you don't give us this money, I'm trying to look up how much, it's $100 million, £100 million, or he'll threaten to bomb like Britain or the United States, one of those. So Bond has to go undercover, and Volpe, poses as like a hot, woman. And throughout the film, agents try to kill Bond. Those are like some of my favorite moments where Bond gets in fights and is obviously there's like these little interactions, like even him not doing it. That's one of the things I love about Connery as Bond is this, even when he's not doing like an action scene, it's just him like either talking to a woman or just talking, even just to one of his fellow agents, how like smooth he played it. It's like I can watch him just be talking to people. It doesn't even have to be in like a crazy action scene. He ends up going to the Bahamas. He starts working with Felix Leiter to try to stop Lago. You get that trope where Bond starts flirting with the Bond girl who actually is working for the bad guy. And even some of my favorite moments in the Bond movies are when Bond's talking with the bad guy. It is like both of them know who each other are. Like Largo knows Bond's an agent, and Bond knows he's the villain. But their little cat and mouse game that they always have, where they just have little bits of dialogue with each other, it's great. I love those moments in the movie. Bond ends up telling Domino that it was Largo who ends up killing her brother, because that basically her story in this movie is she's trying to find out who killed her brother. Bond ends up telling her, and then he ends up killing. Bond ends up killing one of Lago's men. We get a chase scene where Volpe and some other agents chase Bond because they capture Bond initially, but then like some drunk dude goes up to the car. Bond ends up using that as a distraction, and this is where probably I think this is what it reminded me of was Austin Powers. I think it was the second one. Yeah, Austin Powers' Spy Who Shagged Me, where the girl was trying to get Austin killed and Austin to like put the girl in front of the bullet. So that's probably where they got that scene from, was this scene, because you had a similar scene where Bond's dad scene with Volpe, and then like her agents come to try to kill him, but Bond ends up using basically her as a fucking human shield, and she ends up getting killed. Bond and Leiter end up finding Largo's secret, the Vulcan. It's like a submarine thing. I don't know. Bond ends up having an underwater battle. This is where we get the underwater battle sequence because he has to try to save Domino, who got captured. You know, because she ended up being found out by Largo. We get a big battle with like the MI6 and Largo's henchmen in the scuba gear. Is it hokey looking? Kind of. Yeah, it looks kind of hokey. Even the music they were kind of playing during it was a little cheese, but I actually still feel like that scene works for me because I've accepted that, especially the ones from the '60s. There's gonna be little cheesy stuff in there. Those movies, or yeah, they were made different back then, so it didn't really bother me. And obviously, if they had visually, it would probably look better if they did this battle in a more modern time. But it worked for the movie. But Bond ends up killing Felix, saving. No, it wasn't Bond. It was Domino who kills Largo. Um, they then get out. You know, mission success. Bond kisses her. You know, you kind of have that ending, and the film ends. Sorry, you're hearing a lot of water. It's raining again. Sorry about that. But yeah, honestly, I really enjoyed this movie. I really did like it. It's a little cheesy. It's not as strong as, let's say, Goldfinger. Sorry, Goldmember. Holy shit, Goldfinger was. But I definitely enjoyed this. Sean Connery always plays Bond great. I think Domino's a decent Bond girl. Largo works as a villain. Yeah, the villains are very one note in these movies, especially the early ones. But sometimes that works. Not every villain needs to have a crazy backstory or have even just a complex story. Sometimes I'm cool with bad guys just being bad guys, even if it's one note. You know, not always. You don't always need complex villains. I think that has kind of ruined things. So that's why sometimes it is fun to go back and watch these movies. Yeah, the bad guys are very one note, but it's fine. Sometimes that works. You know, they just want to rule the world, or they want to threaten to bomb NATO just because they can. No reason, no nothing, no crazy story why. It's just he does. It works. So I like these movies, and some of my favorite parts of the movies too are like the openings. I love the intros with the music. I love how '60s it sounds. So. But overall, yeah, Thunderball, I give a 7 out of 10. Sorry about that. But, yeah, so that's pretty much all I can say. I enjoyed it. It's a fun one. I can't wait to do You Only Live Twice tonight. I can't wait. I'm happy to keep going down the Bond road because, yeah, man, these are fun movies. So, but other than that, that's really all I have to say. And sorry, guys, this video is a bit shorter, but, you know, it is what it is. But I enjoy it. I definitely recommend it. It's on HBO Max if you want to watch it. So, but I'm gonna cheers and peace out. But I'll talk to you guys later for You Only Live Twice. But fuck Joe Biden. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.